Well, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to show you a real simple project. This one's going to be a hexagon, which is six-sided, and we're going to make this one pretty simple. So hope everybody will give it a try and follow along. We're going to use a small solar panel. Looks like this one right here. It's got a bundle of twinkle lights on it, or fairy lights. There's 120 of them on here. So we're going to use this for our guide to get started with. And what we're going to do, we'll draw it out here real quick. We'll show you how to do that. This one here is not as critical as some of the other ones we've done. The other ones we've done, we wanted to keep them fairly tight as far as the size goes. This one here was going to be fairly small. So it's going to only be about this big around, but we're going to make it about 10 inches long. So it'll be a little bit different. We'll do like we did with the other ones. We'll put a bottom in it, and then we'll stuff these all into it. And then we'll put a top in it to let this rest on. So to get started, we're just going to take our T-square here, and we're going to just take and we'll start anywhere here on this sheet. I'm just going to draw us a line here, and we'll find the center. It's 8.5 by 11, so we're going to look at 5.5 inches right here. Just put a little tick mark right here. And since the hexagon is six-sided, it's on a 30-degree angle. So this is the triangle we've used before. This is, if you put it this way, this is 60 degrees going up and down. If you turn it this way, this is 30 degrees. So we're going to set this in here just like this. And we're just going to draw a line up here. And we're going to turn it over here. And we're going to draw another line down here. Okay, now, since this isn't too critical on this one here, because this is going to sit in here like this, we can kind of make this any size we want. And so I don't want to make it really, really big. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to make these about 2 3/4 inches. So what we'll do to figure this out, we're going to come over here and we'll go right at this point right here, 2 3/4, and we'll put us a little tick mark right here. And from there, we can put our square on here, come over here and mark it right here. This will be where we're going to go right there. And then we'll come right up here with our T-square. We'll put 2 more down lines right here and right here. And then we'll do the same thing here. We'll come up here to 2 3/4, make a mark. And then we'll take this over here, put a little tick mark right here. And we'll put our triangle back on, right up to it. And that's all we need. So that gives us our six-sided hexagon. Just get those out of the way there a little bit so it doesn't look too confusing. So each one of these panels will be 2 3/4 inches wide. That'll be the area between here and here. All 6 of them will match. 3 of them are going to have a hanger on them. So we'll put a hanger here, we'll put one here, and we'll put one here. And the hanger, it'll also have a tab on it to hold our bottom in. So to get started on this, we're going to have to build a form, and we'll build the form to be 2 3/4 to build out from. So if you've watched any of my other videos, we'll go offline and come back on and we'll show you how we're going to build the form. And from there, we're going to make this real simple. I'll just show you here real quick what we're going to do. So we're going to make it about 10 inches long. So it's going to be pretty long and not really big as far as a round. So we'll have our header across here again. Here again, we put that in here. That hides where the solar light goes. And we're going to run a piece of clear ripple glass down the sides here like this. And then we're going to equally break this up here in the middle, and we're going to go all the way down with 3 strips, just like that. So this is going to be a really easy one to make. So then all these areas right here, we're going to cut all different colors of glass. And then when we put them in here, we're just going to break them. One here, one here, one down here, one here, one here. And maybe every once in a while, we'll stick in a iridescent clear glass, maybe just a little tiny one, maybe about that big. So we'll break that up and kind of give it like a little bit of a window. So anyway, this is going to be really easy to do. So Hopefully you'll follow along and maybe want to try to do this one. The hexagon, when we put it together, I have a little jig that we're going to use to put it together with, and it sets on a 30-degree angle. So the panels sit down and you solder across the center, so it's not too difficult to put together. So we'll be back on the next little video, and we're going to build our form, and then we're going to get ready to make this project. Since it's going to be a simple project, what we'll do after we get our form made, we'll take and we'll cut all of our lead. So we'll do all the U-came for around the outside edges. We'll do the H-came for across our header, and then we'll do all these down pieces of H-came too. So we'll have a whole bunch of lead cut. So when we get ready to put the panels together, we can just put them together like an assembly line, and it'll make the project go quite quickly. So anyway, we'll be back and we'll make our form and we'll get ready to put this together. Okay, so we're back. We're going to get ready to build our form now, and our form is going to be 2 3/4 wide. So I'm going to use a carpenter square. You can use any kind of square that you have around to make sure we get this straight. So we're going to set our carpenter square in here up against the backstop on my work table. We're going to take a little bit of a header board here. This is the form wood that I made out of the 3/4 inch pine and just put it through my table saw at 1/4 inch wide. We've cut a little notch in the side here. This will be where our hanger goes on 3 of these panels. So we're going to put this right here. We're going to set it right in here. We've got our small little wire brads here, and we're just going to set them in here. And we'll just go right through the form wood, right into our homozoid board. That's what we're building on. So we just need a couple here just to hold this in here. Make sure you keep it pushed up against your square here because you want it to be straight. Okay, then we're going to take a couple of our side pieces. Going to just set it in here against the square. We'll just push this right along here. We're going to come right up against it. Then we're going to back off maybe about maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so forth. And we're going to put this in here, right here. And we want to be sure we keep it up against our square. And we'll put about 3 in here. You don't need a whole bunch, just enough to keep it down here. If you don't build the form, if you decide, well, I'm going to make these free build these, the problem with that is that if you get one that's just a little bit bigger than the other ones, then that won't line up properly, and then you're going to have trouble making it line up properly. So now take your square out, turn it over, push it in here, push it down. It should fit tight like that. Put your other piece of form on the side in here, and then take your ruler, and we're looking for 2 3/4. That's 2 5/8, so we need to go out just a little bit more. There's 2 3/4 right there. So we're going to hold this out here. We'll put our brad in here. Keep it out against your edge here so we don't get any strange shapes on this. We'll put one more right there. Now you can use any kind of trim wood or whatever you have laying around to make these forms, but it's a good idea to always make the form if you're going to try these projects, because when they go together, they're going to be pretty tight as far as how they fit. And like I said, if you free build it, if one comes out an 1/8 of an inch bigger than the other ones, it's going to throw the whole shape of the project off, so you don't want to do that. So we're going to go off camera now, and we're going to cut some U-came to come down the sides, one to go across the top. We're going to cut some H-came to create our header right here, and then we're going to cut a bunch of H-came that'll go all the way down here to the bottom where our project's going to be. And I'll also take and cut some side glass here. They'll be clear, kind of a ripply glass. And we'll cut our header up here. So we'll go off and get that all cut up now. And then when we come back, we'll show you how this is all going to go together. We're going to make 6 of these panels. 3 of them will have hangers on them, and a plate for the solar lights, and also a tab to hold our bottom in. And 3 of them will just be plain. So when we get ready to marry them all together, we'll marry one with the hanger, one without, and we'll put the 3 sets together when we get them together as a pair. Okay, so we'll be back here in a little while, and we'll get all the lead cut up, and then we'll show you how this goes together. Okay, so we're back. We got a whole bunch of things stacked up here now. We got all of our U-came here. This is the one that makes the letter U. They're all cut on a 45 at the one end. This will be the end that goes here at down here at the bottom right here. And we've got our headers cut over here. We've got 3 of them with a notch in them. That's where our hanger will go. And we have 3 of them that are plain. We have all of our H-came cut. This is the H-came we're going to use down the sides here. So this is the H-came. Remember, it makes the letter H. We have a bunch of little tiny pieces here. They're the ones that are going to go across between all the H-came down here. For our headers, I had a piece of glass somebody gave me a long time ago. It's very, very high ripple. It looks like this one here. And I should tell you, if you're gonna use this kind of glass, you need to chamfer the edges down here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the edges, you have to grind them down because they won't fit into the cane. So try to stay away from glass like this if you can. If you got a piece that you just love and want to use, you're going to have to do a little extra to make that work. We've ground out right here. This will be where the leg for our hanger goes. I'll show you that one more time, how we're going to do that. So our hanger is going to be made up of 3 of these cotter pins right here. These are steel cotter pins. They're zinc plated. They're 30 seconds in diameter. They're 1.5 inches long. And to make this into a hanger, we're just going to insert our long nose pliers right here. We're going to take a little piece of brass tubing, and it's 3/30 seconds across the opening right here. We're going to take it, push it onto the longest leg here, and we're just going to bring this out to make a 90-degree, just like that. And this will be our hanger. This will be the area that goes across our header glass. This will be the down piece. We'll do all 3 of them here real quick so you can get an idea. If you look on my YouTube channel, you'll see that I did a little video on just doing these. So if you want to try this, it works great. I've been using them for a long, long time. Never had one come apart yet. So that would be within the last 25 years. So I would say that they hold up quite well. So let's bring them out here. After you get them out, there's one other thing we have to do here. One, this is our glass that I ground back right here. And we're grinding that back because when this leg sits in here on this right here, we want to be sure between here and here and here and here are the same length, because that, otherwise your job will start crooked and it gets worse. If you have one that's sticking out like that, just take and just tweak it in a little bit and line it back up till it's square. But you also see this is sticking down below this glass right here. So take your long nose pliers here, most long nose pliers, about 1/4 inch across here, and they have an opening in here. I usually just push this through to see the leg come through there, and I cut that bottom down leg off. Otherwise, that will interfere with our next piece of glass as we put it in, and that won't make it line up straight. Okay, so there's our 3 hangers. We're going to do every other one's going to have a hanger on it. And the way this works is that we're going to take our U-came, and because this glass is that real high ripple, you're going to take your little tool here. This is the little spreading tool we've got here, and we're going to take it and we're going to run it right down the channel here. That'll spread that out a little bit. So if you don't do that, the glass won't seat all the way back to the back, and you'll get a kind of a false reading here. When you do that, check it though, because sometimes it makes the cane a little bit curly. It wants to roll it up. So be sure you take it and you give it a quick eyeball and make sure that it's flattened back out. So those will go, they're going to run down the sides like here. And then we're going to take one of our cross pieces here, which has the notch in it. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to run this up through here to push that out. And then we're going to take one of our hangers, and it's going to go right in this slot right here. And then it comes down here, it's going to go right inside this U-came right here. And then this pushes down to our header. This one will come down to our header. And then we'll go way down to the end here, and we'll take and put a couple push pins in here. Just like that. So now our header is going to go down here. So we'll take one of these pieces that has the cutback in it right here. You can see how high ripple that is. So if you were to measure across the ripple here, it's over 3/16 of an inch. Normal glass is about 1/8 or 3 millimeter. So this is going to sit in here. I should have just left these out for a second. This is going to sit in here between these two. I'll put those back in there now. And we're going to slide it all the way down. Come down here. If you're not sure if it's seated all the way, you can take just a little block of wood right here, and don't get too carried away with it, but just give with your hammer, just give it just a little bit of a tap. That'll be sure that it's seated all the way to the end of the inside of the U-came here. Across here now, we're going to put a header piece. I cut those right here. They're going to go right in here. And then here's our down pieces for our glass. Every one of these is going to have this on it. And that piece goes right in here. And I cut all the came for that. So this will go in here like this. Just put a pin in here to hold it in here for us. Just like that. Make sure you got the nice side up, the pretty side up. This will be the side we want up. It's going to go right in here. In like that. Take another piece of H-came here. Slide it all the way down. And then like I said before, we're going to fill this all in just straight down. And so I've cut a few pieces of little glass here. So I made it so that these pieces, the pieces of glass that I have here will sit in here evenly, 3 of them. So we'll put the orange one right here. And we're going to take our H-came. We'll set it right in here like this. Put a pin in here to help hold it. Take your next piece you're going to put in here. And we're going to just pick these are going to pick these at random lengths and random colors. So you can put anything in here you want, pull that over. And then we'll put this last one in here like this. Make sure it's up tight. And if we've done this right, this one here should be able to slide down in our H-came all the way down, which it did. And it fits right here. And then we're going to have these little tiny pieces we cut. They're going to go across here like this. So they'll go in here like this. I just use these little pins here to push that out to make sure it's straight. So they'll go like this. Then we're going to add the next piece in here, and we're going to go on down. And like I said before, we may drop some little clear glass in here. I'll show you what I'm going to use. It's a real pretty, it's a little bit of iridescent. Here's what it looks like. Is this piece of glass right here. We're going to cut this in some little strips here, which will match the width of these. And at random, we're just going to put the little tiny squares in there, and we're just going to scatter them out as we go down to the end here. When we get down to the end here, we'll put a piece across the back here, and that will finish that panel. So this build is going to be really quick. So if you want to get into one and want to play with it really quick, this will be an easy one to do. Much easier than if you're staggering this glass all over. So we'll go ahead and go offline. I'll cut the rest of this, fill it up. And when we come back, we'll solder it up, and we'll put the cleat on it to hold our solar light, and we'll put the little tab on it that's going to hold our bottom. And then we'll go ahead and we'll go offline and we'll build all the rest of them. And then when we come back, we'll put them in our little 30-degree jig, and we'll show you how we're going to put them together. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. We got it all filled in here. As I said, we're just going to run them straight down with different sizes. And I put our couple little clear ones in there. That's the ones I said we're just going to mix up anywhere we decide. So anyway, we're going to solder this up now. I've got my flux. I'm using a liquid flux here. I've got my solder here. This is 60/40. I usually cut it off the roll in 8 to 10 inch pieces. We have a stainless steel brush that I use to brush the joints on. But before we solder this up, we put our last piece back here. This piece of U came here. You want to be sure that it's square. So before you solder it in, take your T-square, set it on here, and pull it down here, and check it to make sure it's square. And if it's not, you can tap on this a little bit to straighten it back up. But if it's not square, when you put all the pieces together, they won't line up very good, and it'll show when you hang it up. So from here, we're going to go ahead and we'll solder this up, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. If you watch the other videos that I've done, I usually just take and go over these joints really, really close. Just knock off any fingerprints, oil on my skin, any oxidation that may have occurred, and just knock it down just a little bit. Then I'm just going to take my tinning brush here, put some flux on the whole thing here. Okay, then I usually just take my iron. Here again, we're using that Waller 100 watt with the 700 degree tip. I usually just take and tin it just a little bit. And then I take my solder and I like to lay it down flat against where I'm going to solder. And I'm just going to touch it right here, real light. Taking off about a 1/16 of an inch right off the end of the solder. That gives you a nice bead, kind of makes them look somewhat alike. Come down in here and get the ones on the edge. We'll solder up the top here around our header. Okay, anyway, just going to come down here and we'll finish these all off. And soldering is one of those things there. It's kind of like practice, practice, practice. After you do it for a long time, you'll get a technique down that you like. And you can go from there. If you've got one that looks a little crooked, you can just go ahead and straighten it up a little bit before you solder it. So this one here looks just a little bit, there we go. Try to catch it before you solder it. It's not a big deal, but try to make them all as straight as possible. And then when we get down to the end here, we'll just solder all the way across all of these. Just like that. Kind of go over it real quick here and make sure you got everybody soldered. This has a little bubble right here. You can either pick it off with your fingernail, or sometimes if you need to, you can take your dikes and trim it off. Okay, so we're going to turn this over now. We're going to solder the other side. Before I turn it over there, I'm just going to take an old washcloth here and just knock off some of the flux on it, just to kind of help clean it up just a little bit. All right, so now we're going to take it out and we're going to turn it over. And this is pretty critical here. Now, when you turn it over, remember, we don't want to solder down any of these sides here. If you do that, you get a little blob of solder here. When the next one goes in here on an angle, if there's a little blob of solder right here, it'll push it away and we'll end up with gaps in between here. We'd like to have that closed up tight so light doesn't come through it. So here again now, we'll just take and we're going to brush down our joints a little bit. And we're not going to do anything down the edges. Here we're going to do the outside ones, but I'm going to leave this open here because here's where we're going to put a little cleat. A little cleat is just like a little shelf that goes across there, and that'll be used to hold up our solar lights so they don't fall through into our project. And we'll solder these down here. Keep your tip clean on your iron. Go ahead and start right here. And we'll just solder these up real quick. If you have one that you're not happy with, solder joint, I found it's best, don't keep playing with it. Go ahead and finish up the rest of it and then come back to it if you need to add a little bit more solder to it or so forth. If you just keep playing around with it while it's real hot, the outcome usually is not really great. So if you end up with one where you need to go back over it. And we're doing the backside, so this is a great time to practice your soldering technique, so that works out good. And we'll finish off this last one right here. Okay, take and wipe this down just a little bit. Now we're going to take this out. We got a couple of things we're going to do. We're going to trim off these legs here. I'll show you what we're going to do with that. And we're going to put our cleat here. And see if I can put this where we can see it here. Every time I try to do this, it put this over here so it kind of hold that up. Every time I try to do this, I usually end up blocking it out. I'm going to use a pair of medical clamps. I'm just going to use a piece of H-came and we're going to set it in here, right here, on top of this other piece of H-came, and we're going to solder the two together. But we want to make sure it's up off of those solder joints. So this is just a little bit too long. So we're going to hold it right here, down against that H-came. And I'm going to try to move away here. I'll put this way down at the end, see if that works for us. So I clamped it down so you can see I've got it held right here. And then on the end of my soldering iron, I'm going to see it's got a little blob of solder on it right there. So I'm going to put this right here. Right there. I'm not happy with where I put that. So let's try that again. I got it where it's right on top of this other piece of lead came, so that's not what we want. There we go. So now I'm going to hold it right here. See if I can hold this right there, I think. And I'm going to set this right in between these two pieces of H-came, and that little blob of solder will pull off and solder this together here. Then I can take my clamp off. I can take my iron now, put it right up against it here, and just put it, and I can just solder this shut right here, right along the edge here. Just like that. Then we're going to turn this around. These two here, if we want to close those off, just take a little bit of solder on your iron. Stick it right in here and get it. There you go, like that. Okay, so we're going to take and wipe this up a little bit. Wipe it down again just a little bit. This is the cleat now. You see it's all soldered in here. These edges right here, they get a little bit sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my dikes here and I'm going to cut these at a 45 on both sides just to kind of keep from getting cut on them. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. They're going to be hidden underneath the plate that goes across here. But down at this end here, now what we're going to do, we could cut these off straight. So we could just cut them off straight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here about 1/4 of an inch above this piece of U-came right here. I'm just going to come in here with my dikes and I'm going to cut this in here. And then I'm going to cut this to a point. And then I'm going to take that point and I'm going to take it on the edge here and bend it over into that gap. Just like this. You can go down a little bit better than that. And what that does, that helps cover up this hole right here. If you cut it off straight, you're going to have a bigger gap to try to solder shut. You can do it that way, but it's a little more work. Or some people just choose maybe just to cut them off and leave them open. I like to always fill them up. Then I'm going to actually solder them shut. And I'm going to take them over on a piece of 80 grit sandpaper. And I'm going to sand them all the way down smooth. And then I'm going to take and chamfer the edges a little bit so there's no sharp edges. So just take this and roll it over. And when you get it rolled over, push it down. Fills up your area right here. If you got a little area here that's sticking over a little bit, just take it on your desk or your work table and just push it down a little bit. Okay, so now we've got our panel all together. So this is going to look pretty nice. We're going to have 6 of these all together going around. So anyway, we need to hold this up so we can solder it. And I'm going to use a drill vise here. It looks like this. We've used this in the other videos. And we're just going to take and we're just going to put this right in here. We're going to tighten it up, but not enough to bust our glass. We don't want to do that. We're going to take and just brush this real light. I don't know if that's necessary or not, but we're going to do it. We'll take and put our flux on here a little bit. And we're going to just take and we're going to solder this shut right here. Just like that. Like that. Then we're going to turn it over here. We've got a little gap right here we want to fill in. And of course we want to solder around our hanger. So we'll set this off on an angle. Let's move this over here like that. Set this off on an angle. Tighten it up here again, just a little bit, not too strong. Flux here, put a little bit of flux all the way around our cotter pin or our hanger. Just hold this on its edge. Add a little bit of solder to it like that. Then I'm going to put some solder on my iron, and I'm just going to set it in here and just let it wait for it to fall off or to suck into there. You'll see it when it goes. It goes right in. There it goes, just like that. What that does is that sucks around that cotter pin will really hold that in there. Then I'm just going to turn it around, and I'm going to come over on the other side here, and I'm going to fill in any areas here that may be open. And do the same thing. You just set your iron on here. Just hold it and then let it go, flow away. Just like that. Okay, so we're going to go offline real quick. And I'm going to finish this up. I'm going to sand this all down. And when you come back, you won't be able to even tell where we soldered it up. So we'll be back in a minute. We'll get it all cleaned up. Okay, so we're back. We got it all cleaned up now. We got it all shined up. It's going to look real nice for us. You can see what I did to the edges right here. See where I took and sanded them down with the 80 grit sandpaper. Here's one I missed right here, so I'll go over that real quick. Let me just step away real quick and do that, and then we'll be right back. I'm going to knock that down so it's smooth. All right, I went back and went over this one right here. This is the one I missed before. I like to do that. Just gives the job a nice finished look to it. So this panel is almost done, but it needs one more thing done to it. And down here at the bottom here, we're going to put a little plate to hold our bottom in here, because when we fill this up with all those little lights, something's got to keep it from falling out of there. So what we're going to do, we're going to set it right against our board right here. Have my little piece of form wood right here. I'm going to put it up at the top. And then here's our little plates right here that we're going to hold our bottom in with. They're made out of galvanized tin. They're real thin material. They're galvanized. So I usually take and burnish off the galvanize off of it a little bit so it solders a little bit better. So they're going to insert right in here, in between the little form wood and the bottom of the U-cane right here. But before you solder that, this is kind of important. Take your pin and mark this where it's at. Get a pin that works, that's helpful. Okay, mark it, and then lift it up about 1/8 of an inch. The reason for that is that we're working with a piece of U-cane that's round on the edges. The crown is rounded over here. And if you leave that down all the way down, that little edge will be sticking down below the U-cane, and it's pretty sharp, so you don't want somebody to get hooked on it. Okay, after you get it raised up, take your little block of wood against the top of your project, then come in here with your flux. Take and flux that up. Wipe your iron off, make sure it's nice and clean. Put some solder on it, and just bring it down here. Set it in here right against the U-cane. And I usually give a pretty good dose of solder right here. Just like that. Let it cool off, and that panel's all done. So we've got to make 5 more now. So we'll make 2 more like this with the cleat on it for our solar lights, and with the little shelf on it to hold our bottom in. And we're going to make 3 that don't have anything on them at all. So as you can see, the project's not really that complicated. By just running these straight down here, you can just mix them out any way you want. We threw our little clear ones in here just at random. So the next one, maybe they'll be up here somewhere, who knows. It's kind of a fun thing to build. It's up to you what you want to do with it. So anyway, when we're back, when we come back, we'll have all the panels made. And then we're going to show you how we're going to put them all together to create our hexagon. So we'll be back in a little while. Okay, we're back. As you can see, we got all our panels done. We got six total. We got 3 over here with our cleat on them and our stop for our bottom for our project. And over here we have 3 that are just plain. So we're gonna build those on this little jig that I have here. This is made just basically out of wood, and it's got a couple backstops on it right here and here, and it's set on a 30-degree angle. So when we put this all together, this will make our hexagon. So to get started, the first thing we're going to do is going to take one of our panels here, and we'll set it in here like this. And then we're going to take one and set it in here like this one here. And if you got a little mechanical square like this, set it in here like this and pull it up and make sure that this is square here, just like that. And if you want to, you can take and put a couple pins in here, just like that, and one here. After you put the pins in, go ahead and check it again, make sure it's square. Okay, and then over here you can do the same thing. These should be square together. Okay, that's fine. So this gives us our V groove right through here. This is where we're going to solder. And so you can take and brush that if you want, because it gets a lot of fingerprints and stuff on it. So brush it down and hold it in here. If you want to push it down tighter, you can push it in here with the and put a couple pins in here also. Push this down together because you want them to fit tight, because you don't want any gaps in between here when you solder these. So then you're going to take your flux, and we're going to run the flux right down here. And before you get ready to solder it, make sure it's up against the backstops here, these 2 little tabs that are right here. And then we're just going to take our solder. We're going to take our soldering iron. We're going to tack this in a couple, 3 places. So we're just going to put our iron right here. I'm just going to put a tack right here. One right there. One right here. I'm going to put a little solder on the end of my iron right here. And I'm going to hold this shut. Didn't want to do that. I'm going to hold that shut right there to get right on the end here. There we go. Okay, and then up here at the top here, I'm going to fill this in solid like we've done on the other projects. I'm just going to put this down here and just move it right along here. Just like that. Okay, so that makes one set of these. I'm going to pull out these two pins right here, but I'll leave these two here because since these panels are all the same size, then we can move on from there. So here's our set of two right here. So we got a nice smooth joint right down here, so that looks good. We'll set those aside. So there's a set of two right here. So we're going to take the next set here. Going to set this in here. Go up against our little tabs or our little pins. Put this one down in here like that. Make sure they're up against our head stop here. And we're going to pull this down here. Put that out of the way there. Okay, so we're going to take and brush this down real quick. And we'll take and flux it up here. We're going to take our iron, clean it up, and just go and take and put a little dab of solder right here. Do one right here. And one right here. And here again, going to put some on the iron. Going to come down here and going to hold these tight and put it right here in the bottom. Just like that. And we'll take and we'll close this up tight here. Just like that. So this is our second pair. Pull those out. This is what we're looking for right here. See, it doesn't have anything bleeding through it, so that's what we want. And then we're going to take our last set, and we're going to set them in here, up against our stops here, and we'll put this right here. Push these down. One thing you want to really check your panels when you after you make them, make sure they don't have any little twist in them. And you can check that by just laying them on a flat table and just make sure that they don't rock at all. If they have a little twist in them, you can take your palm of your hand and you can twist them to flatten them out. But they really need to be flat, so keep an eye out on that. This one here's got a little bit of a gap down here at the bottom, so I want to make sure we push that in before we solder it so we don't get a big gap in there. There, we got it. We'll push this pin in here. If you take a little extra time getting these lined up, your job will look nicer because it won't have any gaps going through here. Because at night, when you light this up, if you got gaps in there, the lights will come through the sides there, and it doesn't look that great. So keep an eye on that when you're putting these together. Okay, so now we're going to just flux it down here. Here again, we're going to take our iron, come in here, and we'll get us just a little spot here, little spot here, little spot there, and put it on my iron, hold these tight, and just a little spot there. We'll come back and we'll fill this in real quick. Another little secret to keep them from bleeding through too is don't dwell on these too long. If you keep your iron on there too long, they will eventually suck through between the cracks there. So don't hold them on there too long. Okay, so now we've got 3 sets of 2. So now we're going to marry these together. And the way we're going to do that is this moves up here like this. And a set of these move up here like this. And they sit in here like this. Here again, keep an eye on them. Make sure that they're up tight to where you want them. Take and brush it up a little bit. Get them lined up the best you can here. All right. We're going to take our solder here. We're going to tack these down. Put a little more on the iron. Hold these ends shut. Solder it shut. Then we'll come back here and we're just going to go ahead and we'll close this in here. Like I said before in the other videos, you don't really have to do this if you don't want to. The only thing is that this is the area that other people see when they look in to see where the solar lights are at on these. Okay, so when we're into this part right here, now we're going to rotate this one more time. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky here, because this one here goes in here. And it slides down. And you can see here it's going to line up just about perfect for us right from the get-go. But this is where it gets a little bit tricky. And now I'm going to go offline here, and I'm going to get my assistant out here, and I'll get her to help me film this so we can film it from the side here. And that way you can get a chance to see what we're going to do inside here, because this gets a little bit trickier here. And this inside one here is a little bit more difficult to solder because we're going to have to reach around, come in from the back side here to get that done. And since this one's so long, you can see it's going off the camera. So we'll turn this a little bit sideways, and we'll turn it about like that so we can look at it. And so we're going to solder down inside here. But I'll go get my helper, and we'll come back out, and we'll pull the camera down here so we can see what we're doing. All right, we're back. I went and got my helper, which happens to be my lovely wife. So anyway, we've got them set in here. I put a couple little blocks here with pins in them to hold that down tight because it's difficult to get inside here. So now we're going to take, I already brushed it down, so we're going to take it, we're going to flux it up in here. And so I go all the way down to the end. So now I'm going to take my roll of solder and I'm going to pull it off so I can come in from the inside and push this through the inside. I get my soldering iron here. And I'm just going to reach around here, and I'm just going to take and put a little dab of solder right here. Okay. Put just a little more flux on it here. If it doesn't flow real easy, it means you don't have enough flux on it, so it doesn't want to spread out. So we'll put that right on here again and see how it does. There you go. That's what you're looking for. So we're just going to come down here real quick. We're going to stick one in here. Okay. Now I'm going to come down inside with my hand, so you're probably going to be hard to see. Come down here, and I'm going to add one here. And then I'm going to go all the way down to the end here again like we did on the other ones. I'm going to put a little solder on. I'm going to hold it real tight with my gloves on here and get it soldered. Then I'm going to come back up here and we'll fill this in like we did the other ones here. There we go. Kind of make that look nice. Okay, now what we're going to do, we'll let that cool just a little bit. We'll pull these out of here. And we'll move these strips away. Now we're going to rotate it to this one here, and this will be the last one we're going to solder. And if we've done this right, those should line up pretty darn close, and it did. So we're going to put this back in here. I'll take and put a couple pins in here to hold that. Then I'm going to come over here on this other side, and I'm going to look, make sure it's splitting this right here in the middle where it's 50-50 on that. And I'll check down at the end here, make sure it's not lapping over. It's a little bit lapped over right here. I'm going to pull it up just a little bit. There we go. If you don't pull it up a little bit, then it gets a little bit crooked. So you won't notice it too much when you're working down here, but as soon as you hang it up, you're going to see that it's not quite straight. Okay, so we got that pushed down. I'm going to take and put our pins in here. This just helps hold it just a little bit because it's difficult to get inside that one, especially since this one's fairly small inside. Get one more pin, we'll stick it in here. All right, that looks good. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take our brush now. We'll go down here and we'll brush this up, go all the way down to the end. Check your end stops here, make sure your edge is up against it. Make sure you're down here where you want it. This looks good. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put our flux in here. All the way down to the end here. Come back in here with our iron and our solder. And we're just going to put a little joint right here. Come down a little bit more. Put one more there. Come way down here. Put one right there. Then I'm going to put a little solder on my iron right here at the end. And I'm going to hold this together with my gloves on. And I'm going to solder this down here. There you go. And then I'll come back up and we'll fill this one in here real quick. There we go. Put our iron away and pull our pins out of the way. Get this out of the way. And here's our project. So it came out really nice. Everything looks good. Don't see any bleed through on our solder joints here. So we're going to go offline and get this all cleaned up a little bit, and then we're going to come back. We're going to Pantene this one again. So we'll go back and go over how we're going to do that. So this is going to be our hexagon. We're going to have the solar light here in the top of it. We're going to have the 120 twinkle lights, and we're just going to stuff them in here at random. So this ought to give us a really nice effect. So we'll be back in a minute. Okay, we're back. We got it all shined up now. So it came out really nice. So we're going to Pantene this. If you're watching my other videos, you've seen how we do this. But we're going to do it one more time to give you a little look at what's involved in Pantene. First of all, we need to go over this whole project with either steel wool or Scotch-Brite pad or something that we can knock off any fingerprints, any oil or any oxidation on our lead and our solder joints. So I'm just going to use this Scotch-Brite pad and I'm just going to scrub this down. And you'll see how the came and the solder joints are getting nice and shiny. Okay, so the more time you spend getting this shined up, the nicer your Pantene is going to look. If you don't do this, when you put the Pantene on, it's going to be real spotty, and you're not going to be happy with the job. If that happens to you, just take it and go back over it with the Scotch-Brite, scrub it down real good, and then re-Pantene it. That usually will help you get it back to where it looks pretty decent for you. So after we get this all shined up, Then we're going to take a little spray bottle. I've got some Pantene in it, so we're going to Pantene it black. We'll take a little spray bottle and we're going to spray the Pantene right onto the lead in the solder. And then we're going to take a brush that I've got. I just designated this brush. This brush has only been used for nothing other than to put the Pantene on with. So we're going to go ahead and get this shined up right here. I think we got one more side if I've counted right. So this takes a little bit of elbow grease because you want to be sure that they're clean. All right. So that's our project been shined up now. So this is our Pantene right here. And we're just going to take it in a little spray bottle here. Sometimes these little spray bottles they get stuck, but this one here, we'll see how it does here. So we're going to spray this on here. All right, use a pretty liberal amount. And then after you get it sprayed on here, take your brush, just a regular little scrub brush. And I'm going to go over it all. This helps get into all your little nooks, your crannies, any little area that you're worried about, like down in these, where these two pieces of cane come together here. And with the Pantene, once you've sprayed it on there and the reaction starts, that's all you need to do. It doesn't help to come back and put more Pantene on. Nothing will happen. It's going to be as good as it's going to be first time out. That's why it's important to go ahead and Scotch-Brite that and shine it up really good. So after you get the Pantene worked in really nice, we'll rotate this to the next one. We're taking wet it down. Get all the areas that you want to Pantene. We're not going to Pantene the inside of this. We're just going to leave it the way it was. The outside's the only thing that we're really interested in. And it's going to be hard to, if you want to do the inside, it would be pretty hard to do because it's going to be hard to get in there to knock down any glaze or fingerprints or something that's on your cane. So we're not going to worry about that. The nice thing about Pantene your project, or you want, if you've had a little trouble with maybe a little bit of bleed through along the edge here, or if you've had a little trouble with some of your soldering joints, when you Pantene it, it kind of hides quite a few little errors, so it gives the finished job a really, really nice look. So we're just going to go on around. We'll go ahead and stay online, and we only got a couple more panels to do here. Show you how we're going to do that. So this is kind of up to the builder's option if you want to Pantene it or not. I have mixed emotions where I like it more than just leaving it standard with just the solder joints. But since these are going to have all the little twinkle lights in it, the dark cane really looks nice when it lights up. So I think it's worthwhile to go ahead and do this. All right, we got two more to go here, and then we'll show you what we're going to do with it next. You can put the Pantene on all kinds of different ways. I've seen it put on with the little tinning brushes. I've seen people put it on with a piece of terry cloth, a towel, and just a little couple square inch towel, and they put it on their finger and dip it in their cup and put it on. The only problem with using a brush or a towel or something like that is that each time you dip back into the cup, you're contaminating the Pantene a little bit. And as you continue to contaminate it, as you continue on your job, the Pantene loses some of its strength. So by spraying it on like we're doing here, we get new Pantene every time, and it's not been interfered with as far as any foreign matter from a previous. I'm going to have to put some more Pantene in here, it looks like. There we go. As you can see, I'm wearing gloves. I recommend you wear gloves when you Pantene. It is a little caustic, and you should probably keep your skin protected. If you read the instructions on the bottle when you buy it, it'll tell you right there, do not do this without putting on some protection for your hands. So I would highly recommend that you do that. All right, I think we got one more side to do. Here it is, right here. Okay. After we get this all Pantened, then what we're going to do, we're going to let it just set for just maybe 4 or 5 minutes. We'll go offline and let it set. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to put it in a mixture of Dove dishwasher soap and water. And the water should be as cold as you can get it. And we're going to brush this all down with a clean brush. And then what we'll do, we're going to come back and we're going to spray it with some wax. We'll let the wax dry, and then we're going to go ahead and we'll buff it all up. And we'll make a bottom and a top for it. And we'll go ahead and finish it up from there. Okay, so while we're letting this set a little bit, we'll go offline maybe about 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and we're going to wash it up. And when we come back, we'll show you how to put the wax on it. Okay, we got it all Pantene here. We got it all shined up. Now what we're going to do, we're going to put some wax on it. This is a glass wax. The purpose for this is going to shine up the glass. Also, it will shine up the Pantene, and it also will help preserve it. So I'm just using a small spray bottle with some glass wax in it. And I'll show you what we're going to do with it. We're going to take it, and we're just going to spray some wax on here. Just like that. And then I have a brush. And it's just for nothing more than polishing. And so that we're going to take and we're going to go over the project with this brush. And we're going to work that polish into all of the little joints. You want to get them all. You can do this with a little paintbrush. You could do this with cotton swabs or a little piece of terry cloth towel. The spray works quite well. It gets into everything. Then we're just going to rotate it around. Give it a couple more sprays here. Now this wax, we're going to leave it on here for a little while. So after I get through going over all of these, we'll go offline and we're going to wait for it to dry. It dries fairly fast. I've seen people that have waxed their jobs and leave it on all night long. It doesn't really hurt it. It helps protect the lead from oxidizing. And when you come back, we just come back and we buff it off, and it'll have kind of a frosty gray look to it when it dries. So it gives you an idea that it's completely dry and it's ready to be shined up. And when we shine it up, we're going to use another brush. And it's been used for nothing but shining up the wax. And then after that, we're going to use a real soft fibered cloth, and we're going to kind of buff it just a little bit to get a little shine on it. So we're almost done here, since there's only 6 sides. If you watch YouTube, you'll see lots of people do all kinds of different ways to wax. Same with the Pantene. There's probably 100 different ways to do it, and my suggestion is to try one and find one that you like and the one you have success with, and that's the one to use. So I've had success doing it the way that I just showed you, but you certainly can venture out and give it a try any way you like. Okay, we almost got it all the way around here. So we're going to go offline and we'll let this dry. You can see that it's starting to dry there already. I'm just going to set it up on the end. I'm going to hit these top pieces here just with a little bit of wax. They don't really need to be shined up, but we'll just put a little bit on there anyway. Okay, so when we're back, we're going to take and buff this all up, and we're going to put a top in it to hold our solar panel, and we'll put a bottom in it so we'll have a reflection. Also, it'll keep our lights from falling straight through, and then we're going to take and we're going to stuff all the lights in here. So that'll be a little bit of a chore because these bundles sometimes they're kind of tangled up, so you have to fool around with them a little bit. So when we get ready to do that, we'll show you how to get them untangled and where to go from there. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, we're back. Well, as you can see, the wax is all dried here. It's kind of chalky looking. So I kind of got waylaid on my project, and so this wax has actually been on here all night, which doesn't really make a big difference. So to get this off, I take another brush. This one here has been used for nothing but polishing the stained glass, and I just take it and I just go over this, and you'll see that it'll start to shine the glass up, and you'll see that the Patina will start to shine up too. And this will get in all the little nooks and cranny areas here, and you can see how that's shined up already. So you can get in here with the little areas that are got wax in them. Shine it up real good. So that's a wax side versus a non-wax side. So we'll just do a couple more of these real quick, and then we'll go offline and finish them all up. If you watch the other videos, you'll see that I sometimes take a electric toothbrush and go around them. I'll show you that real quick too. So we're just work the edges of them. These that have lots of little ones in it, the wax wants to get stuck down in there, so you got to keep working on them a little bit. So if you've got an old electric toothbrush, here's just take one that's just one that looks like this. Just you can take and you can go in all these little circles with it. The nicer job you do cleaning this up, the better your project will look when it's hung up. Because right now when it's laying down like this, you look at it and you go like, oh yeah, this looks great. And then as soon as you put it up and put light to it, all of a sudden you notice all the areas you missed, and then you have to go over them, and sometimes it gets a little more difficult. So anyway, we'll go over and we'll go offline. We'll go ahead and finish the rest of the unit. Then we'll come back and we'll cut a bottom for it, and we'll cut a top for it, and then we'll put the lights in it. We'll put our chain on it, we'll light it all up, and we'll be done with it. So hope you've been following along. This is a pretty simple one. I'm very happy with the way it came out, considering we just ran straight down here and just put different lengths of glass in it. So it came out. So it looks much more complicated than it really is. And this would be one, if you're just kind of a beginner, this would be a good one to start to work with. All right, so we'll be back as soon as we get this all shined up, and we'll have a bottom cut and a top cut, and we'll go from there. All right, we're back. So we got everything all shined up now. We had it all waxed up and we got it all polished. So now we're ready to put the final touches on it. So I cut my bottom piece. I got my top piece for the hold the solar light. So we're going to put the bottom in it right now. And I usually, on these ones that are the hexagon or octagon, whatever size they are, before I cut my glass for the bottom, a couple of times we've made them and we've used these for the bottoms. I think I'm going to stay with the glass. I like it. It's a little more stable, and it also gives a little better reflection. But for this one, we're going to use glass. But I usually take a piece of cardboard or chipboard and create a pattern, because you don't want to start cutting a whole bunch of glass and can't get one to fit, because no matter how hard you try, there's always one of these sides that's going to be a little bit bigger down when you put them all together right here. You might make a little flub up right here on the edge where one of them laps over a little bit, and that changes the direction here. So make it out of cardboard and then go ahead and copy it to your glass. I've already pre-fitted this, so you notice I've got some little marks right here. Those will be to indicate where our tabs are, and I also have a little dot right here which indicates that's where it goes in here, because normally when you have all these funny sides on here, if you want it to fit fairly tight, it's only going to fit in one spot, so you want to rotate it around so until you find the one you want. So I'm going to put it down with a little silicone seal. I'm just using an E6000 silicone seal here. Get the lid off of it. It always gets stuck on there pretty tight. And I'm just going to take and right here in the areas here, I'm going to run a bead of silicone seal right here. Okay, now this is where it gets a little tricky. So we got our silicone seal on there. So now we've got to put this up inside here. And this is always kind of a challenge. So you take it here. I'm going to pull this down here so you can see it. It's be more in the middle here. You put it inside here. And then you reach around inside. And when it drops down into it, you lift it up. And then you let your bottom drop right in like that. Take and push it down nice and tight. And now, because I don't want to glue it down to my towel here, I'm going to take some of our little form wood right here, and where the tabs aren't, I'm going to take it. I'm going to put it on these like this. Get it up off of the towel. Okay, so that way it's down tight. I can get in here and push that down and make sure it sits where I want it. Okay, so now we're going to put all our lights in here. And I think I told you earlier, let's move this over just a little bit more so it's kind of where you can see what we're doing here. These twinkle lights can be a little bit of a challenge, and I'll tell you why. They come in a bundle like this, and they're tied together right here. And so sometimes when you start to unwrap them, they'll be all kind of knotted together. So just take a little bit of patience. You want to be a little bit careful. You don't want to get too carried away because they are somewhat delicate. What you want to do is you want to find the end of it. This is the end right here. And you want to unwrap it. As you can see here, it's already wrapped around this one here. So you want to unwrap that real carefully. So you don't want to get too carried away with these because, like I say, they are a little bit delicate. It's just these fine wires that are holding all these little lights together. So you want to be a little bit careful with it. When you get it untangled here, this one that's clear here, this is the down lead that goes to the solar light and to the controller. The controller has a mode switch here, has an on-off switch. The mode switch lets it go from all the way from being on solid to flashing to blinking on and off to going all around. So you can play with that a little bit, find one that you like. I usually just leave them on solid all the time. On our top plate that we made here, you notice I've got one corner here that's really rounded quite heavily. That is where this down cable is going to come through to come up on top here to hold our solar light. So now what we're going to do, we're just going to take this and we're going to very carefully just take, and we're just going to let it fall in here. There's 120 on these here, lights on here. So we're just going to push them down in here. After you get them all in here, you can kind of pull around and adjust them if you want to. This one's unwinding pretty good, so after I told you they were difficult to get off, but I've had some that have been all wadded up and you'll have a whole heck of a time doing it. So I'm going to go offline and I'll fill this all up because you don't want to watch me just try to keep stuffing these down here. So we're going to fill this thing completely full with this 120 light string. And then when we come back, we'll put the top in here and we'll put the solar light on. We'll put our chain on and then we'll get ready to light it up and show you how the project came out. So we'll be back in a minute. Okay, we're back. We got all the lights pushed in here. They all fit nice. So you can see here's our cut back. Here's our lead coming through here. This is for the, brings this up. Looks like we missed this one here. Let me fix this. Reach in here and pull this up. There we go. Get that up on top where it's supposed to go. Okay, so our light's sitting in here very nicely. So I got my chain on here. Here again, we're using the jack chain in number 16, and we've got the same setup as we've had before. We got a couple split rings and a ball bearing swivel. So anyway, we'll go do like we've done with the rest of these. We'll take this into the laundry room. And when we turn the light on in the laundry room, the photo cell in here will think that it's gone dark and it'll come on, and we'll show you our project and see how we did. Hopefully you followed along on this. It's been a fun project, like I said before, just by making these lines go straight down and just putting all different colored strips in there. It worked out really well. It's an easy one to cut because you can just, once you figure out the distance between the two pieces of clear glass going down the side, divide that into thirds. You can cut all your glass and then just cut them at different lengths and stack them in there. And if you notice, I took some iridescent squares, just little tiny ones, and stuck them in there. They're about a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, and they'll give it a little bit of a flare as far as the way that it looks. Anyway, it makes it look like it's real complicated. It's actually quite simple. So hope you'll give this one a try, and we'll be back on the next video. So we'll go in and we'll light this up and we'll show you what it's going to look like. Project, we got it all done, and here's what it's going to look like at nighttime. So it came out real nice. I hope you guys will give this one a try, and we'll see you on the next video.